Walk with me for a few minutes. So, question for you. Have you ever failed at something? I mean, experienced failure to the level that it was hard to get back up. It was hard to keep moving. Knocked you out of the game. Or maybe even the thought of failure or what could happen kept you from even beginning in the first place. I'm sure all of us have experienced that a lot more than once in our life. The feeling of failure or the fear of that feeling of failure. And I want to talk about that this morning, but I want to talk about it under the context of how to fail successfully. And there is a way to fail successfully. So join me this morning and let's talk about how we can move forward failing successfully in all that we do. Morning, everybody. Good to see you. Who's walking with me? I love it that you're taking time out of your life, out of your family, out of your work to walk together. I enjoy our time together. Give me a hello below. Give me a good morning below. Give me a high five below. The only way I know you're here is if you comment below. Would love to say hello back. And if you're new to our walks, welcome. If you've been walking with me, good to have you back. You know that I love participation. I love conversation. I want this to be a collaborative experience. I don't want to walk by myself here this morning. I want to walk with you all. So please feel free to chime in below because it's going to be a good topic and one we all have faced, do face, and probably for the rest of our life will face. And that's the concept of failure. And how we can fail successfully. When I say that, how many of you guys all of a sudden go, what? Huh? Failing successfully is an oxymoron in itself. Those are opposite things, aren't they? I don't think so. And that's what I want to talk about today is how to fail successfully in all that we do. Now, you might say, well, what are we talking about? Failing at what? Anything. I want you guys to put something in your mind this morning, something that you're doing. It might be a project. It might be an idea. It might be a business. It might be a product. Something that you want to move forward. Something that's on your goal list. Something you aspire to. Something you want to create. Any direction that is future focused. Put those in your mind this morning as we receive kind of today's conversation on failure, because my goal by the end of this is to move you forward. And when it comes to failure, guys, this is something we all face. You know, if I were to be direct with all of you and we had all the time in the world, I'm sure all of us would be able to list a ton of quote unquote failures we've had in our life. And probably just that word and just that thought of thinking about the things we feel we failed at brings an unrest, an uneasy feeling, maybe an anxiety or a stress to us, right? Kind of lowers our energy. And that's what we got to learn to shift and how to reframe or redefine what failure really is. And I think it starts with the fact that we have a totally messed up definition. That's the root or the beginning of the problem, is we've misdefined what failure really is. Somehow we got this definition that, you know, failure is any time we mess up, right? Or any time we make a mistake, or any time something doesn't work as planned, or any time we don't meet somebody else's expectation. Listen to these rules that we all have kind of absorbed as our own of failure. There's no doubt why we feel it all the time when we associate failure to anything that doesn't go as planned, anything that messes up or goes wrong or didn't work out. Hello? All of those things are an absolute reality in all that we do. They're absolute necessity in all that we do. Matter of fact, it's an impossibility for us to move forward, do something new, try something different, progress, grow, innovate, advance. Can't do any of that if we're afraid to make a mistake, have something not work as planned, not meet an expectation of others. It's an impossibility. And if those are our rules or our definition, we'll be in a constant state of feeling like we're a failure. And it's messed up. I know, you know, for those that walk with me, my favorite question, why? Why do we have this definition? And I'm not going to go into a historical lesson, but my belief is it's legacy thinking. It's legacy thinking of a time that no longer exists. I talk about in my TED Talk. For those of you guys that have seen it, I appreciate you. For those that you haven't, check it out, share it. It's got some good traction right now, actually. A lot of shifts going on in the world, so I think people are gravitating to that conversation. But regardless, I talk about how the Industrial Revolution, now it seems like ages ago, was built and predicated on a certain set of skills needed. And those skills, guys, were assembly line mentality, right? It was a revolution at the time. It was an innovation at the time. It fueled, right, America into the powerhouse it is today. It worked at the time, and it required people to do very simple tasks over and over and over and over and over again. It was like widget making society, right? No matter what someone was manufacturing, they couldn't make a mistake. See, one little mistake meant for an imperfect widget. An imperfect widget meant whatever machine it was going into didn't work. That could cost companies money, safety. So it required this messed up definition of associating imperfection, mistakes, something not perfect, not meeting expectation as failure. And that need in the economy translated itself into an educational system designed to feed that economy. And that's why, in my opinion, our educational system, a lot of the structure of it is rooted in, things like grades. And, if you get below 50%, you're a failure. And if you get something wrong, teacher breaks out the red pen. And if you stand out of line and disobey, you got to stand in the corner. Morning. And you guys, those were all practices to reinforce this definition that we got to strive for no mistakes. We got to strive for perfection. We got to strive for not making errors. And we got deeply conditioned that when we did, we felt like a failure. You might say, well, Blake, that was like decades ago. Yeah, but the problem is everybody that is still a boomer today, a Gen Z today, all us millennials, yeah, I'm a gray-haired millennial, all grew up in that structure. So we've adopted the same messed up belief, and we got to shift it. I'm not going to solve that on the morning's conversation, but if any of you guys have a solution, that's how we got to eventually make the shift, is in the structures of our future generation. Because the number one way to successfully fail is to redefine the definition of failing. But in lieu of changing the entire system, let's talk about what we can do as individuals today, what you can do as an individual today. And this applies to entrepreneurs who are out there. It applies to professionals. It applies to stay-at-home parents. It applies to us as people, family members, friends. It applies to all of us because all of us have this feeling inside. So how do we shift this definition and do some very simple, practical things now to get rid of this feeling and to allow us to move forward? Let's break it down. How do we fail successfully today? Let's talk about how we fail successfully before we start. Let's talk about how we fail successfully during whatever we're doing. And let's talk about how we fail successfully after what we do is done. If you're ready, say I'm ready. Below, give me a comment below. All caps, I'm ready. What do you mean by before? Well, before whatever you want to do. So you guys, here's the sad reality. Most people stop before they ever begin. It's the truth. How many ideas do we have? Things we know we, quote unquote, should do. Ideas within us, passions within us, a desire to contribute and serve, a knowing how to do that. Yet we don't take the first step. Why? I'm willing to bet most people never take the first step because of a fear that they might, quote unquote, fail. And we don't want that feeling, so we avoid the feeling by not beginning. Here's the giant irony. I'll highlight it, I'll point it out. You'll probably jump to the conclusion. If the fear of failure keeps us from even beginning, we have already, quote unquote, failed before we even began. You'd rather have taken the step, right, and messed it up and had the opportunity to go forward than to not take the step at all. So the very first thing to failing successfully is to begin anyway. Start anyway. Take the first step. Day one begins now. What is the first step? Activate. Go, go, go. Don't let the fear of what might happen or what someone might think prevent you. Don't let the false definition of failure that, oh, it has to be perfect, I can't make a mistake, the teacher's going to bring out the red pen, I'm going to have to sit in the corner, all those past-based feelings and references. Don't let that keep you from beginning. First thing we got to do to fail successfully is begin immediately. Start. Question for you. What's one thing you know you should start right now? Get real. Answer the question. You know the answer. You don't have to think about it. You've been putting it off. You have a part of you that wants to move forward, that wants to begin, that tells you that's the right thing to do. And all I'm telling you is go. I gave you permission. Begin. Okay? Don't let the fear of woulda, shoulda, coulda, right, keep you from beginning. To fail successfully, first thing we have to do is begin. And don't put yourself in the bucket of failing before you even start because of the fear. So you guys, failure is about forward. We got to make that shift, right? Failure is about moving forward. We have to be willing to take the risk in order to move forward. And by definition, if we're not moving forward, we're standing still. And if we're standing still, we're not growing. If we're not growing, we're not dying. We got to be trying. And that's how you fail successfully at the beginning, is just start. It's an easy one, right? We can all do that. How about during? In the middle of your idea, your project, your business, your product, whatever it is you're doing right now, beginning right now. How do we fail successfully during, while we're in the middle of? You guys, the first thing is we got to learn to iterate quickly. You guys see, you're going to make a mistake. You're going to mess up. It's not going to work out as planned, always. You guys, as an entrepreneur 20 years, do you know how many quote unquote mistakes I've made? How many things that didn't work as planned? How many things I quote unquote messed up? I couldn't even put a number on it. Millions? I don't know, hundreds of thousands. Way more than the things that worked. Way more than the things that went as expected. Way more than the things that, worked out of the box or I got right. So many things. Products that totally flopped. Ideas that didn't go as planned. Technologies that didn't work. Right? You know how many speeches or conversations I've had that didn't resonate, that didn't get received. Guys, way more. Not even close. Not even the same planet than things that did. But you got to be willing to take those steps, right? To learn, to get the feedback, to iterate. You guys, failure is feedback. We got to make that shift. Life should be a constant iteration, right? We go, we move forward, we adjust, we move forward again. Do, review, redo. Do, review, redo. Iterate. When it comes to during It's all about how fast, right, you can quote unquote fail, how often you can quote unquote fail so it can move you forward. Yeah, I've made more money in my career than most people, right? Maybe you look at the milestones. It's easy for you to say, Blake, you have more accomplishments or milestones than most people. Guys, the only reason I've made more money or had more accomplishments is I've quote unquote messed up, got things wrong, got a step backwards than most people. Guys, failure is just feedback moving forward. And we got to be willing to take the step in order to grow. You learn a lot more by the things that don't go right or that don't go as planned than you do from the things that go right or go as planned. That's a fact. When you win, you're celebrating, right? When you lose, you're asking yourself, right, what can I learn from this process? That's a question you might want to write down when you're during whatever you're focused on. What can I learn in this? And how do I make the adjustment to go forward? The other thing when you're in the middle is sometimes failure, right, isn't just iterating, adapting, innovating. Sometimes failure is sticking with something too long. How's that for a counter belief? Sometimes we stick with something longer than we're meant to. Sometimes we should have let go a long time ago. And sometimes we're holding on just because, again, of the fear of failure as opposed to letting things take their natural course, adapting, evolving, growing. So when it comes to failing successfully during what we do, you got to look at it at both sides. Go, go, go. Iterate, review, adapt. What can I learn? Adjust, move forward. It's a necessity. But also be ready to say, hey, you know what? This isn't working as planned. I'm giving it all I got. Maybe an evolution, an elevation, a next step is needed. And don't be afraid to let go. And that's how you fail successfully during what you're doing. Failure is feedback. And lastly, after. When it comes to after we complete something, right? After something reaches, right, an end date, it happened or it didn't, you made it or you didn't, whatever goal or deadline or milestone you had. How do we fail successfully at the end? Well, you guys got to realize that failure is never finite. Failure is never finite. Here's the view from the top. Santa Monica way down there. So after you get to your mile marker, your deadline, your make it or break it, your launch date, right? You got to look back and say, okay, failure's never finite. And you got to decide what your next step is from there. You see, one of the most valuable principles I ever got taught, I got taught it when I was 19 or 20 years old by a mentor. And he said, Blake, the only way you really fail is if you quit. The only way you really fail is if you quit. You guys see, failure is never finite. Failure is not the project. It's not the task. It's not the due date. It's not the launch. It's detached from whatever the outcome of that milestone is, right? Failure is never finite. It's your decision at that point, whether you decide to get back on the horse, whether you decide to get back on the driver's seat, right? Whether you decide to let whatever happened to you keep you down, looking in the rearview mirror, or let whatever happened to you move you forward, allow you to grow, allow you to get stronger, right? In order to make you better on the next step. You know, I love the Rocky movies. Any Rocky fans out there? And I don't know the exact line, but it goes something along, hey, it's not about how hard you can hit. It's about how hard you can take a hit. And you guys, that's the reality. It's not about how hard you can hit. It's how hard you can get hit. And you guys, that is something that when all of us go through, whether things work or they don't, they hit the deadline or they don't, they launch or they don't, the reality is we're going to take hits. We're going to fall down. We're going to get knocked down. And the only way you fail is if you quit. The only way you fail is if you don't get up. And we all have that choice. And the reality is the more that we learn to get up, the more that we learn to take a hit, the more that things don't work out, and we go anyway, we progress anyway, we get in the driver's seat anyway, we get back on the horse, and anyway, you start to realize that it's those falls, it's those valleys, it's those hits that actually make us stronger, that actually make us better, that actually set us up to go even further faster when we take the next step. And you learn to appreciate the hits. That's not failure, right? That's failing successfully, right, in all that we do. So guys, we got to make those shifts when it comes to failure and redefine what it means to us. Failure is about moving forward. It's about beginning and taking the step. Failure is about feedback, right? It's not about never getting anything wrong. It's about how fast can we fail, how often, how do we review, how do we iterate, and how do we take that step forward. And failure is never finite. It's never really the end. It's never a finish line. Matter of fact, when we get knocked down, that's just an opportunity to get back up stronger than we were before, get back on the horse, get back in the driver's seat, and take that next step. So guys, there's some thoughts on how to fail successfully in all that we do. Let's redefine that definition in ourselves first. And by redefining that definition in ourselves, hopefully we can help make a shift to the rest of the world and the people around us. And I think today's conversation is even more relevant right now than ever before, because in a time where we're quarantined, in a time where we're moving toward a new normal, right now there needs to be more innovation, more creation, more new ideas, right? More solutions to the new challenges we're facing than ever before. And the only way we're going to get to that new normal and to bring new thinking and new solutions to the world is if there's people that are willing to fail successfully in pursuit of what all that new is. And those people can be you. They're no different, guys, than everybody out there. You have what it takes in you to move forward. You have what it takes in you to serve and make an impact. Don't let the fear of failure keep you from beginning. Don't let, failure in the middle keep you from advancing. And don't let, failure at the end keep you from getting back up and doing it again. Let's redefine it. Let's make the shift, and let's fail successfully in all that we do. Hope everybody has a great day. If you got value from today's conversation, feel free to share it. That's the biggest compliment you can give. If there's someone that came to your mind, someone that came to your heart today, maybe there's someone that's beginning something, in the middle of something, just finished something that needs this message, tag them below and just say, hey, this one's for you, or I thought of you. And other than that, guys, let's make that shift and go out there and let's start from the beginning. Take step one today. Go take an action today. Go move forward today, because I know you have it in you. Have a great day, everybody.